Crown has you covered. Start your day with the first word. Cincinnati's only morning sports show. Power through midday with the working lunch. Cincinnati business talk that keeps you in the know. Nat tries that for lifestyle around the city. And the Rebound Rundown covers every corner of the college basketball scene in the tri-state and beyond. This is The Crown. Built for Cincinnati. First word for you morning sports. The working lunch for business that hits home. Nat tries that for lifestyle around the city. And Rebound Rundown for college hoops. This city deserves its crown. Watch, listen, subscribe.
Midday in the Queen City. Business is booming. Let's do lunch. Cincinnati is a city that means business. Fortune 500 company HQs, renowned institutions like Children's Hospital and the Cincinnati Zoo, and letters that everyone here knows: TQL, GE, CVG, UC, and X. It's also a city that's large enough for new ideas to take root and grow. You know somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody, and you're in business. I'm Jack Crumley, and this is The Working Lunch. Hello, welcome to The Working Lunch. This is our hour-long business show here on The Crown, where we bring you headlines, interviews with CEOs and various local leaders, and try to squeeze in a bite to eat before you go back to face the afternoon. Big, exciting day here as we kick off officially on the Crown Network. It is my honor to be here. It's my honor to be speaking to you. Let's see what's going on. First up, we love movies here at The Working Lunch. So it is Monday, coming off of a weekend. Let's check the box office. As expected, it's all about the back rooms.
I found something in the store.
Okay. What did you find?
That's what I'm trying to figure out. Keep up. It only gets better.
So, Backrooms, the new release from A24. Backrooms, get ready for this, did $81 million at U.S. box offices over the weekend. It did another $36 million in the rest of the world to set a new opening record weekend for that studio, A24. That is a massive opening. You remember not that long ago when the first Spider-Man movie was the first movie to do $100 million domestic on its opening weekend. $100 million domestic was the great white whale of box office for the longest time in Hollywood. That came under a property that had a ton of expectation and had decades of history as an IP. This is Backrooms. It is based on a YouTube series from about 10 years ago, not even that, and it did $81 million on opening weekend. That movie only cost $10 million to make. The director of Backrooms, Kane Parsons, is 20 years old. You'll forgive me if I screwed up my timeline on that a little bit. He was 16 just 4 years ago when he posted his first 9-minute short on YouTube called The Backrooms. It got 10 million views in its first 2 weeks. A24 signed him as the youngest director in that studio's history, and he's been developing Backrooms for the last 2 years. I had the pleasure of seeing it over the weekend. That movie is big on vibes. Parsons told the New York Times he considers it a supersized version of that original YouTube work. The score in Backrooms is really fun. The sound design is really interesting. It has some genuine scares. Really enjoyed it. That is your #1 movie at the box office for this weekend. Other top films from the weekend, another horror film, Obsession, came in second place, adding another $26 million to its total. And this is really shocking. In third place here at the start of the summer movie season is Star Wars: The Mandalorian and Grogu. Just did $25 million. Deadline reporting over the weekend that Star Wars movie fell 69% in box office from its opening weekend just last week. That is some really, really surprising numbers there. Your two top movies for the weekend. There you go. Unexpected, to say the least. We'll be keeping an eye on the summer movie season box office as it rolls on. As far as Cincinnati business headlines go, we've got an update on Barge Watch 2026. That right there is the Elizabeth Ann tugboat. She brought a barge to Cincinnati with a crane, so construction on the Brent Spence Companion Bridge can begin. ODOT reported on Sunday evening that tugboat and barge has now reached the mooring area at Ludlow, Kentucky. I'm assuming it made it past without damaging the yacht club there. Please be careful. There will be cranes in the water this summer to start work on the $4 billion infrastructure project to build a new companion bridge for the Brent Spence. New businesses opening to let you know about. It's a picture of CM Chicken's website, one of the products there, a South Korean fried chicken restaurant that first opened in Liberty Township nearly a decade ago. There was some discussion on the Chowdown Cincinnati Facebook page just in the last week or so, asking for spots for good Korean fried chicken. CM Chicken was mentioned right at the top of the comments that I saw. The new location, it's opening in Hyde Park, has its grand opening tomorrow. You can find that with so many other restaurants in the Hyde Park area on Paxton Avenue in Hyde Park Plaza. The Seven Hills School has been working on an expansion for the last couple of weeks, and some progress has been made recently. One campus, one community, one Seven Hills. That's how the district is billing this unification and expansion plan. Concept art was recently released of a new combined Doherty and Lot Speech School, professional broadcaster right here. That's on Red Bank Road in Madisonville for kindergarten through 5th grade kids. It's a $37 million expansion by Seven Hills that includes building that new combined school with Lot Speech nearby and Doherty in East Walnut Hills. They're going to be combined. It's also going to be putting an addition on Taft Early School and other planned elements in that $37 million expansion. Seven Hills is a private school here in Cincinnati, and that's an important thing to note as we get into today's Bite. We do have a bit of an update for you on the business of education. We have previously talked here on the show about how the state of Ohio is now spending $1 billion on vouchers for private school in a program called Ed Choice. And now there is a local state lawmaker who paired up with another one getting involved in questions about transparency and making sure there can be more accountability, any accountability in some cases. State Senator Louis Blessing of Colerain is co-sponsor of Senate Bill 443. Nicknamed the Take the Dough, We Gotta Know Act. It's a pretty good name. The measure would require an annual audit of the money that each school in the Ed Choice program gets from vouchers. The State Department of Education and Workforce would be required under this legislation to come up with a report card for chartered non-public schools to give the state auditor something to compare. Those schools would have to turn in weekly attendance records. They'd also have to make sure employees undergo criminal background checks, report tuition and fees, and more. It's something that Ohio has had issues with in the past.
Ohio's Attorney General is now suing the founder and leaders of ECOT in an attempt to get back millions of public dollars. The lawsuit targets founder William Lager's profits from ECOT contracts, money paid under alleged improper contracts, and funding that was not justified by tallies of student participation. The school closed back in January after the state started collecting nearly $80 million in disputed funding.
So that was a report from a few years ago. ECOT was the electronic classroom of tomorrow. It was an online public charter school that was privately managed and received tens of millions of dollars in public funding, even though there was no proof that the students going to ECOT were actually doing any of the schoolwork or even attending it at all. That scandal ended with the closure of the largest virtual charter school in Ohio back in 2018. The Ohio Supreme Court ordered it to repay the state over $100 million. Now, critics of this current voucher system that we're talking about today say that there are essentially no rules limiting the families that get that public money. It didn't start that way, but that's certainly what it has evolved into. Any family now, no matter what their financial situation, can have taxpayer money to help pay for tuition at private schools. Those same critics say the money is coming at the expense of Ohio's public school system. Lawmakers back in 2023 increased the Ed Choice expansion eligibility to 450% of the poverty line, meaning K through 8 students are eligible for more than $6,000 in scholarships, and high school students can get over $8K in funding from the state. Now, certainly families who are even above 450% of the federal poverty level do qualify as well. They're just on a sliding scale in terms of what they qualify for. Public school districts across Ohio are dealing with major budget deficits. Cincinnati Public Schools is considering putting a new money levy on the November ballot, trying to help fill in a $58 million projected hole. The Columbus Dispatch just over the weekend reported that more than 120 public school districts all across the state are projecting negative cash balances by the year 2029. That is the worst rate since the Great Recession nearly 20 years ago. Supporters of Ohio's private school vouchers argue that the EdChoice program benefits low and middle-income families. The financial help means choosing a learning environment that benefits their child best, such as a specialized or religious or safer school, which could better fit their child's needs rather than being restricted by their zip code, being locked into a school they don't want to go to and that they don't benefit from. There is a legal challenge to the constitutionality of the EdChoice program filed by hundreds of public school districts in the state that will likely end up in front of the Ohio Supreme Court. I do think it's possible that the requirements in this proposed Senate Bill 443 could be a way for the state to demonstrate to the public, to the courts, to others, that it does have a hand on the wheel to mitigate the accusations that funding is out of control and accusations that it's hurting public schools. Parents want what's best for their kids. Every child deserves to get a great education. One of the issues brought up by lawmakers who want more accountability is that the taxpayer-funded vouchers for private schools don't benefit every child. Ohio Capital Journal reports that nearly a dozen counties in Ohio did not have any private schools in those counties in the last fiscal year. How does this help them? A Franklin County judge ruled last year that the EdChoice program is unconstitutional. It is still going on, though, with arguments held last month in an appeal for the 10th District Court. But again, expect all this to go to the state high court before anything is decided. That's your Big Bite on this Monday. Well, here we go. A lot going on in the city. Business is booming, as you know. My guest coming up is a man who has his finger on the pulse of just about everything business related here in Cincinnati. Jamie Smith is the publisher of the Cincinnati Business Courier. We'll be speaking with him next. You're watching The Working Lunch on The Crown. Stick around.
The Crown has you covered. Start your day with First Word, Cincinnati's only morning sports show. Power through midday with the Working Lunch, Cincinnati business talk that keeps you in the know. Nat tries that for lifestyle around the city. And the Rebound Rundown covers every corner of the college basketball scene in the tri-state and beyond. This is The Crown. First Word for your morning sports. Nat tries that for lifestyle around the city. The Working Lunch for business that hits home. And Rebound Rundown for college hoops. This city deserves its crown. Watch, listen, subscribe.
Hi, my name is Natalie Jones, just your typical 40-year-old Cincinnati girl. Although, no, I'm not married or divorced. I don't have any kids, and I don't live in the neighborhood I grew up in, which is the West Side, by the way. But what I do have is a lot of freaking time, and I've been using it well. So come along with me on this grand adventure, because I've been trying all the new around town that you need to know about. This is Nat Tries That. Hello, my name is Natalie Jones, and welcome to the Nat Jones Show. After retiring from my 10-year radio career here in Cincinnati, I caught the bug, and I'm happy to bring it here to the Crown. I love captivating people who have captivating stories to tell. And the thing about it is, everybody has a story to tell. All you gotta do is empower them to do so. That is exactly what I'm doing here. Because life is better when we all stay curious and we all stay connected.
Cincinnati, home to more than a dozen Fortune 500 companies. A city where you know someone who knows someone, and you're in business. Every weekday at noon, The Working Lunch brings you headlines from local businesses, along with exclusive interviews with owners and local leaders. East Side, West Side, northern suburbs, downtown over the Rhine, and northern Kentucky. Real conversations, real Cincinnati. The Working Lunch with Jack Crumley, weekdays at noon, only on The Crown.
My name is James Erpine, and I host First Word every weekday morning, 7 to 11, right here on The Crown. Prior to joining the Crown Network, I covered the Bengals for Sports Illustrated for 6 seasons. I also am the founder of Cincinnati Bengals Talk on YouTube and wrote the book, Enter the Jungle, A History of the Cincinnati Bengals. Couldn't be more excited to join you every weekday morning for First Word right here on The Crown.
I'm Paul Fritchner. I'm a 2019 graduate of Xavier University, and I've been covering college basketball for 10 years here in the Cincinnati area. I'm the host of the Rebound Rundown, a daily college basketball podcast during the season and a weekly show in the off-season covering everything you need to know about your favorite team. And if you're not a fan of a team here in Cincinnati, I have you covered from the national perspective as well. Follow it on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts.
Welcome back to the Working Lunch. We are in the guest segment now of the show. My name is Jack Crumley, and I am joined by Jamie Smith, who is the publisher of the Cincinnati Business Courier, a long-running publication here in the city, focused, as you might imagine, on all things business. Jamie, thanks for coming on the show.
I'm delighted to be here.
Glad to have you. You have always been a newspaper ads guy.
Pretty much almost all my life.
Yeah, I mean, I think I found a little bio of you on your LinkedIn page talking about how it started back in high school, like the student paper.
Yeah, I started my junior year. I was the editor of the paper. Or my junior year, I was the sales manager of the paper.
Okay.
You know, big high school paper. That's a big job. And then my senior year, I became editor. And then I thought I would do it in college, but I kind of went the business route and didn't really have time for it. And then when I got out with the marketing degree, it's like, what are you going to do with your life? You know, you just assume in marketing you're going to get a job at a P&G or Coke or some big brand. And when you find out that's not reality for most people, I went into the media world.
Yeah, and what was it like selling ads for the high school paper?
You know, it was fun selling the
Chess
$30
Club, were they big
ad
spenders?
well, you'd go out to the local businesses. Sure. You know, so I'd get out of school for the last 2 hours of the day, and I'd go down to local businesses and just start hitting them up for dollars.
Yeah. What is it about? I mean, this has essentially been the bulk of your career and even life before you got into a professional sense. What is it about newspaper ads that does it for you?
You know, and for me, I think, you know, today I really can't just say newspaper, I say media.
Yeah.
Because obviously we're so much digital now as well. It's just the connection part for me. You know, it's always been, I grew up as a newspaper reader. You know, I brought my children up as newspaper readers, and you know, as life and technology changed, that obviously got away, and people start reading it on their phone or on their iPads or whatever. But it's still that connecting and get the knowledge that you need to know, and I've just always enjoyed that.
Yeah, and you guys are, you know, have really had to do quite a bit of adapting, obviously, but that's a business thing anyway.
Absolutely. And
it'd be a shame if you weren't able to adapt to this world that we're in now in terms of not many people physically get a paper. In fact, the Business Courier made a change, what was it, just about this time a couple of years ago when going to that weekly format and there was a big announcement of the change.
Yeah, we had a smaller size of the paper, you know, still once a week, still printed. But you know, we look at our readers right now. We have about 17,000 people that pay to subscribe to our paper, whether that's print or whether that's digital. And I would say still about 60% of our readers still want that Friday print product in their hand, or at least in their mailbox. What they do with it when they get it, I don't know.
Yeah, but that's not your problem.
They still want it because we give them the option of no print and just digital, but they still want it.
Yeah, there is something that's, I mean, maybe I'm just a little bit older than I used to be, but there is something that I find very comforting about having a physical piece of paper and turning pages and all that. There's a good, you pair that with like a cup of coffee and a bagel and you're in really good shape.
Know, the thing that I hear most from people is, you know, when I read your news online, whether it be on the phone or sitting at my desk on the computer, you know, I take it in, but I don't always retain it. But when I go home on a Saturday or a Sunday and I'm sitting on my porch and I'm drinking my coffee, I can then retain what I really need to know. And it's also great I can pass it on to somebody else. If it's not important to me, but it's important to my sales manager or my CFO, I can pass that on to them in a physical form.
Yeah, it's like when you were in high school and you were taught about taking notes. If you physically take the time to write it down, there's something about that brain-physical connection that makes the information land better.
Right.
The Cincinnati Business Courier is published through American City Business Journals, right? What is the relationship there like for your perspective?
It's great because, prior to that, I worked for the Inquirer. So, the Inquirer was part of Gannett. So I always had that parent company. Well, at American City Business Journal, we have that parent company, and they've created a model for us, I would say, a prototype, but it's really up to the individual market president to really kind of cover what you think you're going to cover. What's your market want? If you look at our webpage in Cincinnati, Charlotte, or Orlando, they all look alike, but the quality and the content differs depending on what market you're in.
Yeah, sure. The trade dress and everything looks very similar,
absolutely.
and that gives you guys an opportunity to be really dialed in on the local level. That's got to be hugely beneficial to not have the big boss sort of breathing down your neck in terms of content.
It's always interesting because we have to, and I tell people this all the time, we have to listen to our customer. We have to listen to what kind of news they want, how they want to read it, and when they want to read it. When I first started there, we did not break a story till it hit that print paper on Friday. There's no way we'd put it online before it went to print.
Wow.
And now, as soon as we have the news and we've got it sourced and we're ready to go, we break it. And if you're a subscriber, we'll tease a lot of those stories on Thursday night.
Yeah.
Because it's ready to go. Because people don't want to wait. If you know something's going on with, you think about Kroger, all the stories that we're doing on Kroger and all their management teams that have been leaving, they don't want to wait till Friday to read about that. They want to read it as soon as we have complete information.
Well, I got to tell you, as somebody who worked in radio news in this city for a couple decades and doing this now and checking what you guys have on the reg, you have a team of reporters over there that does a spectacular job. I know Steve Watkins and Chris Wederick personally, but that whole team there is really dialed in. It's a great staff.
Well, it's all about relationships, you know that, right? Cincinnati's a small big town or a big small town. I forget which one it is, but it's all about who you know and how well you know them. And number one, can you earn their trust? Once you've earned their trust, whether you're talking about Kroger, P&G, or some small mom and pop, they'll give you the news. They'll give you the exclusive. They'll work with you if they know they can trust you. And Steve is a great example. He's been here. Steve was here before and left, went out to LA for a couple years. He came back right after I started in 2003. And so he's built a lot of relationships in that time frame.
Right, and again, being able to receive the story that somebody else wants to pass along, and if you know them and trust them, then you're very willing to do that, and you guys have, again, I think it's a really spectacular staff.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
Your role at the Cincinnati Business Courier as publisher officially involves pretty much everything that's not editorial, that's not the stories themselves. It's the ads, it's direction with the company itself. Is that a good summation of what the publisher does? You're not cranking the machine.
I always say that I hire good people to do their jobs, and then I just kind of sit there and watch them. But it's really, I feel like my primary responsibility is being in the community and developing those relationships for companies or leaders that we don't have. And that whether that's on the sales side or whether that's on the sourcing side. If we're trying to get into a big company that maybe we haven't had a relationship with before. Good examples, Paycor. When Paycor was acquired by Paychex. We don't have those connections at Paychex. It's my job to get those connections started and make sure that we don't lose out on any kind of news that's happening. Being out in the community is big time for me, whether that's through board work, whether that's through nonprofit work, whether that's just connecting with the leaders in Cincinnati. We do probably 25 events a year, and it's, whether those are small roundtables. I did 2 roundtables last week, one on the aging population with all the health systems. A couple weeks before, I did one on mental health in the workplace. And it's just getting those CEOs or chief medical officers in and talking about how those topics affect the workplace.
Yeah, you guys do so many events. I jotted down a few that you've got coming up, by the way. Fast 55 is June 18th.
It's in June.
Southwest Ohio Growth Summit is June 25th. And CEO Conversations, I'd love to sit in on that, is
Yeah.
June 30th. And then the deadline for the C-Suite Awards is coming up here on June 12th.
Right.
The deadline for that. What role do those events, I mean, you're talking about having a connection with the community. What role do those events play in the success of the paper? Do you see a direct correlation between subscribers?
You know, the Courier's mission, and when I say the Courier, ACBJ's mission,
Yeah.
is to really help companies learn and grow and help them run their businesses successfully. A big part of any company is retention of your employees, right? And a lot of part of that is honoring and rewarding those people that are doing good jobs. We kind of feel like that's where our awards programs, really come into place. Is we can shout out the good deeds done by the CFO of a company or the CMO of a company, or our 40 Under 40 awards. We can shout out those young professionals that are going to be the leaders, whether they're leaders now or they're going to be leaders in the next 5, 10, 15 years. I mean, our 40 Under 40 awards will be in September, and we just closed our nomination process. We'll have 40 winners. We had 459 nominations for those 40. So that's how important the community finds this awards program.
Well, I do believe that there's a previous person involved in that 40 Under 40 that we may know personally around here at the network, but that's a different story altogether. But then that also helps build not only relationships, but then getting an in to keep them aware of you and you aware of them as those younger people especially go on to do other things.
And it helps build our audience too. I mean, oftentimes when you give somebody an award, they may or may not have heard of the Business Courier before. Especially if they're in a lower level management role, they haven't gotten to that C-suite yet or that mid-level management. They may not have had a reason to read the Business Courier, but once they've their headline goes out and it says so-and-so is a 40 Under 40, one of the first emails I get back from them people is, I can't believe how many people have emailed me or called me to congratulate me. So that's when the audience is growing.
Boy, and good on you for having that be the response, because clearly you guys have built up some nice reputation on that over the years.
Absolutely.
Talking about the relationships that are so crucial when you're talking about any kind of business, and the relationships that lead to sponsored advertising, the relationships that lead to stories in the Business Courier. Is the line between sponsored content and actual editorial, is that line a little bit thinner in what you guys do?
I wouldn't say it's thinner. We have started to do a lot more sponsored content. I think the big unique thing that we do with other publications across the country may not do is we very clearly will indicate this is sponsored content.
Yeah.
This is not the views of the Business Courier. This has been paid for by Tri-Health. This has been paid for by Xavier University. The news is the news, and I pretty much stay away from that. My editorial team will tell you, I send them a lot of emails. If I'm out and about and I hear something's going on, I'll say, hey, just went to a board meeting and I heard this.
Yeah.
It used to be when I first started doing it, they were like, oh, we have to write that. I'm like, no.
Yeah, no.
That's for you to decide if it's newsworthy. Because oftentimes it may be, sometimes it may not be.
Well, and from your perspective also, just letting the news folks know, as an FYI, it's always better to have it and not need it than need it and not have
Absolutely.
it. And I think it's really admirable to have that sort of division between I'm doing what I'm doing and I'm trusting you guys to do what you're doing.
You asked that question about the sponsored content, and kind of goes back to my previous point where I said we have to deliver the news how you want it. And we're finding that advertisers have changed a lot over the last 20 years.
How so?
It used to be, hey, give me an ad in your paper, and I want that print ad 52 weeks a year, or I want it 19 times a year. That's the way we sold it. Your contract rates were based on how many times that ad went in. Well, now they don't necessarily want that print ad. That's not their, they don't care about branding. They want maybe a little bit more thought leadership concept. So they want to be able to tell their story the way they want to do it. So, they'll buy the space, they'll buy digital. As I said, those roundtables that I do, those are pay-to-play roundtables where, they pay us a fixed amount. We have them as a thought leader. We recap the conversation. We publish it online. We put it in the paper. They're able to really show the community that they're a thought leader in the community.
Well, yeah, and you guys have established such a nice platform to be able to do that with a level of credibility that it's rewarding it's a rising tide that raises all boats.
Absolutely.
In terms of what you guys think about as far as audience goes, obviously business to business is a really big part of it, but B2C is an element. There are casual, regular folks that are reading that paper.
Well, I always say, business owners are consumers too. So they want nice cars, they want nice homes. We have a couple realtors that use our paper every single week with their $1 million homes, because they know that our readers can afford you. One of the things that I added probably 8 years ago, there was some change in what the daily paper was going to cover in the arts world. They were going to stop covering a lot of the arts. They were going to stop doing a lot of the reviews. And I had probably 3 CEOs or board chairs come to me from the ballet, the opera, the ensemble theater, and they're like, we need you. If we stop publishing things like this, we're going to lose grants, we're going to lose funding, we're going to lose ticket holders. And so I'm like, I'm not sure that's our audience. And then I pause for a moment to think, who buys subscriptions to the ballet? Who buys subscriptions to the opera? Who are the board members of these organizations? Who are the future board members of these organizations? So I took it to my management team and I said, I think there's something here. And, I had to go find some funding, back to that sales world.
That sounds familiar.
Even though it's not always pay to play, it's like, all right, I've got to find funding because I can't just give up 2 to 3 pages of my paper each week to the arts and move out, the corporate news. So I was able to do that, partnered with ArtsWave, partnered with a couple family foundations to cover it. And it's been a win-win ever since.
Boy, that's really spectacular. I've been lucky enough to have a couple leaders of some arts nonprofits here in town. Had Catherine Reitman Sigworth on last week ahead of their photo focus opening.
It's a beautiful building, isn't it?
Amazing building. We'll have some pictures of that building coming up here later on in the show. Really nice event they did. Lynn Myers at the Ensemble Theater.
One of my favorite people in Cincinnati.
Right. But my point is that, the art scene here is really incredible, and it is funded by so many business types here, and keeping the word out about what's going on in that, again, is a way to keep the machine going.
Yeah, you talk about kind of my job. I was recently on the cabinet for ArtsWave. James Zimmerman, who ran the community campaign this year for ArtsWave, he reached out to several people in the community and says, I need you to help me help ArtsWave. We need to raise money. And so, I'm reaching out to probably 60 CEOs around town saying, hey, it's a time for you guys to give, time for you to get your employees to give. And, does that help me at the end of the day? Yes. Does that help my day-to-day? No.
Right.
But if I make that, the arts community and the business community connected and stronger, then at the end of the day, we all win.
Feeding the mind, we are feeding the soul. Everything's being taken care of here. We are going to take a break. We'll be back with more Jamie Smith from the Cincinnati Business Courier here on The Working Lunch. You're watching The Crown. Stick around.
The Crown has you covered. Start your day with First Word, Cincinnati's only morning sports show. Power through midday with the Working Lunch, Cincinnati business talk that keeps you in the know. Nat tries that for lifestyle around the city, and the Rebound Rundown covers every corner of the college basketball scene in the tri-state and beyond. This is The Crown. First Word for your morning sports, Nat tries that for lifestyle around the city, the Working Lunch for business that hits home, and Rebound Rundown for college hoops. This city deserves its crown. Watch, listen, subscribe.
Cincinnati sports fans are the best. Loyal, passionate, second to none. This city lives and breathes sports, and now it finally has a morning show to match. I'm James Rapine, and this is First Word, the only morning sports show in Cincinnati and the place where every day starts. We break down the biggest moments and set the agenda for the city. Marissa Contepelli and Jacob Tissett join me to bring the insight and energy you need to start your day. The conversation starts with First Word. First Word, weekdays 7 to 11, part of the Crown Network.
Hi, my name is Natalie Jones, just your typical 40-year-old Cincinnati girl. Although, no, I'm not married or divorced. I don't have any kids, and I don't live in the neighborhood I grew up in, which is the West Side, by the way. But what I do have is a lot of freaking time, and I've been using it well. So come along with me on this grand adventure, because I've been trying all the new around town that you need to know about. This is Nat Tries That.
This is the Rebound Rundown. I'm your host, Paul Fritchner. Your home for college basketball in the Cincinnati area and across the country every Monday through Friday during the season. Previews, recaps, breakdowns, interviews, and more, you can find it all right here. Your one-stop shop for a quick dose of college hoops on your morning commute. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts.
Hey, I'm Marissa Contapelli, one of the co-hosts on First Word and a features producer here on The Crown, where I will be out and about in Cincinnati bringing you the stories that you need to hear in the Queen City. Now, I know I'm from Cleveland, but I love my Cincy sports. I've been in Cincinnati for almost a decade now, spending the last 8 seasons with the Bengals as a team reporter and senior producer. I am so excited to be a part of the team here at The Crown, and I can't wait to bring you the latest from around the city.
Hi, my name is Natalie Jones, a Cincinnati native, and I have been in media for about 10 years now. Formerly on the radio here in Cincinnati, I grew my love and obsession with finding all things fun in Cincinnati and have now made it my life. I'm originally from the west side here, and then I've pretty much been a downtown girl ever since college. But I did leave for 7 years, and during that time, I really grew and harnessed and cut my teeth doing stand-up comedy in Los Angeles, learning how to ski in Colorado, and now I'm back here in Cincinnati, driven by curiosity and grounded by family.
Welcome back to the Working Lunch. My name is Jack Crumley. I am joined by Jamie Smith, the publisher of the Cincinnati Business Courier, handling all sorts of news and information, whether it's business to business, business to consumer, keeping folks dialed in on what's happening in the city business-wise, and I find them to be a tremendous resource. I'm grateful for that. Where did you grow up?
You know, I'm a hillbilly. I grew up in Kentucky. I grew up in central Kentucky on a dairy farm. I was raised on a 1,000-acre farm and spent all my childhood pretty much on that farm.
Were you like milking cows and
stuff?
Oh
yeah, we would milk about 100 cows a day, twice a day.
Wow.
And we had tobacco, corn, everything a farmer has. I learned at a very young age I wasn't going to be a farmer.
Okay.
I didn't not want to work that hard.
Was there a specific incident on that,
or you just realized, boy, this is really rough? That long, you know. Yeah. I mean, those days would, summer days, I'd get up at 4 in the morning and. I'd probably get in from the barn at 9 o'clock at night.
Well, yeah, because then you're waking up that early, and then you still got to go to school.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oof, that's a lot.
So I knew I didn't want to be a farmer. I was the first in my, not only my immediate family, but from my grandparents' side to graduate from college.
All right, congratulations, that's wonderful.
So I went to the University of Kentucky, met my now ex-wife at UK. She grew up in Fort Thomas. And I don't know if you know much about Fort Thomas girls, but you don't get them out of Fort Thomas very often.
Okay. Make a note.
So we moved to Fort Thomas, and that's how I ended up in Cincinnati.
Yeah, I was going to say, so that's how you got your foot in the door to get to know this region. You already had a little bit of experience newspaper-wise going into that. And then when did you start at the Business Courier?
Well, I started in the Courier in 2003. As I said earlier, I spent about 11 years at the Inquirer.
You were at the Inquirer.
But my start came at the Recorder newspapers. They were in northern Kentucky, 3 little community papers, 1 in each county. I don't know if you remember the name Ted Bushelman.
You know what? I saw that you mentioned Gloria, and
Gloria
I was going to ask if Ted was that. Yes. If there was a connection there.
Gloria was the publisher, and she owned these 3 papers, and she took a chance with me right out of college and hired me to sell ads. So I had Campbell County, and then, gained some territory, got Boone and Kenton County, and then after about 4 years, moved over to the Inquirer.
Yeah.
And was there in sales and then sales management before going to the Courier in 2003, where I was their director of advertising for 8 years. And then when my boss left, I became publisher in 2011. So about 15 years ago. I started publishing.
Gloria was, pretty solid mentor for you.
Oh yeah, absolutely. She was incredible. I think she was probably one of the pioneers as far as a female publisher.
Yeah.
and it was an interesting, partnership with her and Ted, because Ted was running the airport at the time, for those that don't know.
In the capacity that I always knew Ted Bushelman, he was our media go-to guy when there was something going on at the airport.
Absolutely. So she gave me my start and really kind of fueled my fire and desire to stay in the media world.
How important is that from your perspective, the idea of having mentors and mentees and trying to bring people along?
I think it's one of the most important things. I have 3 adult children now, and I tell them all the time, if you're not being mentored by somebody, you should be mentoring somebody. And it doesn't matter what your age is. I still have mentors to this day that I work with or I talk to from time to time. I had a VP at the Inquirer who people used to laugh at me, but we were on the 17th floor of the Inquirer. And if I saw my VP heading for the elevator sometimes, I would make a trip downstairs just so I could ride the elevator with him.
Just to be stuck in a small room with that person.
2 minutes with him to ask a question or to say something, or just to show that I had interest in more than, the daily job. So I think mentoring is just super important.
Well, and it gives I think someone who's new to a business or to an organization, it gives them an idea of what things are like someplace else. It gives them an idea of what their goal can be. It's such a wonderful way to introduce somebody to all of the options they have.
Yeah. I've done a lot of work with Big Brothers and Big Sisters here in town. Junior Achievement, those are 2 organizations that are kind of founded on that mentoring arrangement. And I think Jessica Esterkamp, who runs Big Brothers and Big Sisters now, we've just really, I just love watching what they're doing to open the mind of a child that doesn't have a mentor. It may not even have a parent, or at least a parent that can give them what they need. And I just think you get in the business world, you need that mentor to know what's next, what could be next.
And especially, on a personal level, like what you're talking about with Big Brothers and Big Sisters, the idea that there's more to life than maybe what could be really challenging and what even there's a connection there between with a business mentorship too. The idea that just because you're stuck in the mailroom right now, that doesn't mean that's where you're always going to be. And let's talk about what you want to do with yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's so important. I've, being a farm kid, trying to envision what my future would be, I didn't know what that was like. I didn't know how to make that step, but I knew I had to do something to make it happen. And, fortunately, my kids, were always given that opportunity. You can do whatever you want to be, whether that's a doctor or an architect, and I have one of each.
Wow.
You can do whatever you want to do. You just got to figure out what it is.
How long do you need to be publishing the Business Courier to pay for all that schooling?
Well, it's funny. I spent all day Friday looking at wedding venues for my daughter. So
well, congratulations.
I may be working for a while longer.
Wow.
That's not cheap.
No, that's funny. That's good. One other thing about your career that I did want to ask you about, there was a brief period where you were out of the newspaper advertising game altogether, working for Teleflora.
You got it.
Tell me about what that process was like.
As I said, I had worked at the Recorder for 4 years, and it was a great job, but it was a small job.
Sure.
And I could see no opportunity for me to get up a level from there. Even if I got promoted to a manager, I still wasn't going to be making a lot of money. My dream was to work for the Inquirer. I could not get an interview there to save my life.
Wow.
No matter how many times I sent a resume in, how many times I saw job postings, couldn't get in.
And that was with the connection to Gloria and whatever you're trying to do.
Absolutely. And so I'm like, I've got to go somewhere else. So I saw a job posted, for Teleflora. It was a marketing rep. I covered the whole state of Ohio and northern Kentucky, and I would visit retail flower shops, like any flower shop you see, and I would get them to, number one, join Teleflora. And that gave them the ability, if your grandma lived in Louisville, you could go to your flower shop and they would call the Louisville flower shop, so you didn't have to do that. And I would help them with their marketing, helping them, show them how to grow their floral business.
Boy, that's folks. First off, you need to understand there was a time before the internet where a lot of business was done by dialing 800 numbers.
Absolutely.
And having different small-time floral shops join a network. Was that a tough sell?
It really wasn't, because as you said, there was a need.
Yeah.
Everybody's family or friends, or think about somebody's friends died.
Right.
You needed to send flowers to them, and it was just like a phone book. I mean, Teleflora had a book about this thick.
Wow.
There was nothing but flower shops across the country. And because you sold them that, they had the ability that if somebody in New York died and they needed a flower shop in, Cincinnati, they would look through that directory and call, whoever it was here.
Boy, yeah, and then all of them able to sort of share in the business on that. That's an interesting business. But eventually then
I did that for 4 years, and then I started my family. So I think my second son was born, and I'm like, you know what? I'm driving all over Ohio. And I mean, I was driving, wouldn't get on a plane. I was driving to Marietta. I was driving to Bowling Green, Toledo, Cleveland, and wasn't seeing my kids. I'd be gone all week. A lot. And I'm like, I've got to get back home. And I saw an ad for the Inquirer, and I answered it, and I got a call like right away. And I spent 6 hours at the Inquirer interviewing that very next day.
That was a 6-hour-long interview?
Walked out with a job. So I'm like, I've been trying to get on here for, 4 years or 8 years, and had never been able to. And like that one day.
And then lightning struck.
It struck, and met 4 different people, got right to the VP, and started right away and stayed there for 11 years.
Not good for you. In your transition with the Business Courier, going from stepping up into the official publisher role, was it director of sales before that?
Director of advertising, we called it basically a sales director, yes.
What was that transition like, really stepping into the capital P publisher position?
It wasn't hard, because if you think about a director of sales, you're out there introducing your product to those CEOs and those CMOs and those COOs. So I was already making connections with the top, the top people in these companies. So once I changed over to that publisher role, I was still making those connections, but it was for different reasons.
Is that why you think so? I mean, there's so many media companies where it seems like the sales manager, the person in charge of ads, when there's an opening then at the top for management, usually it's that person. It's not just about the money part of it specifically, right? It's about the relationships that have been built up from someone at the top on the sales side.
When I started as publisher, I was probably at the beginning of that point where it used to be the editors became publishers.
Yeah.
And I think what they found out was editors didn't really understand P&Ls. Editors didn't really understand the whole sales process.
Right. They're too busy screaming about needing pictures of Spider-Man.
And I think the key again is you've got to have a good hire. And I was fortunate because my editor at the time had been with the Courier, Rob Dahmeyer. He had been there, I think, 22 years when I took over. So I had an editor that knew what he was doing. So I didn't have to worry about the news aspect of it. I mean, obviously I watch it. I proof everything that runs in our paper, but I had a good news team. And that Rob has now left and gone on to our corporate office. He's VP of content for all 40 of our markets now. And Tom Demaropoulos, who was my real estate reporter for years, stepped into that role as editor now. So it's kind of fun. I tell people my editor was an intern with the Courier.
Oh, wow.
My managing editor was an intern at the Courier. And we've probably had 4 or 5 of our summer interns that are now either reporters or web editors of papers across our chain.
Well, that's really, I mean, it's just nice to know that, again, that upward mobility, the idea of mentoring people and bringing on interns and watching them grow into a career there. That's great.
Yeah, absolutely. It's great.
Jamie Smith is the publisher of the Cincinnati Business Courier, one of the great papers here in town, really keeping track of stuff that nobody else is. Even if you're not a business owner, allow me to put in a strong suggestion to get yourself a subscription to the Cincinnati Business Courier. Jamie, thanks very much.
Thank you. Thanks for those great words.
Thank you. This is The Working Lunch. We got to take a break. We'll be back. You're watching The Crown.
Cincinnati sports fans are the best. Loyal, passionate, second to none. This city lives and breathes sports, and now it finally has a morning show to match. I'm James Erpine, and this is First Word, the only morning sports show in Cincinnati and the place where every day starts. We break down the biggest moments and set the agenda for the city. Marissa Contepelli and Jacob Tissett join me to bring the insight and energy you need to start your day. The conversation starts with First Word. First Word, weekdays 7 to 11, part of the Crown Network. My name is James Erpine, and I host First Word every weekday morning, 7 to 11, right here on The Crown. Prior to joining the Crown Network, I covered the Bengals for Sports Illustrated for 6 seasons. I also am the founder of Cincinnati Bengals Talk on YouTube and wrote the book, Enter the Jungle, a history of the Cincinnati Bengals. Couldn't be more excited to join you every weekday morning for First Word right here on The Crown.
The Crown has you covered. Start your day with the first word, Cincinnati's only morning sports show. Power through midday with the working lunch. Cincinnati business talk that keeps you in the know. Nat tries that for lifestyle around the city. And the Rebound Rundown covers every corner of the college basketball scene in the tri-state and beyond. This is The Crown. Built for Cincinnati. First word for your morning sports. The working lunch for business that hits home. Nat tries that for lifestyle around the city. And Rebound Rundown for college hoops. This city deserves its crown. Watch, listen, subscribe. Hello, my name is Natalie Jones, and welcome to the Nat Jones Show. After retiring from my 10-year radio career here in Cincinnati, I caught the bug, and I'm happy to bring it here to The Crown. I love captivating people who have captivating stories to tell. And the thing about it is, everybody has a story to tell. All you gotta do is empower them to do so. That is exactly what I'm doing here. Because life is better when we all stay curious and we all stay connected.
My name is Jacob Tissett, and I'm a co-host of First Word from 7 to 11 every morning right here on the Crown Network, where we will break down the biggest stories in Cincinnati sports. I'm a graduate of the University of Alabama, where I spent 4 seasons working for the football team as a student assistant, contributing to the 2020 National Championship and 3 SEC championships. I'm a Cincinnati native, a St. Xavier High School graduate, and will bring a local perspective and passion to covering the Bengals, Reds, and everything in between. I'm excited to have you join us on First Word.
Hi, my name is Natalie Jones, just your typical 40-year-old Cincinnati girl. Although no, I'm not married or divorced. I don't have any kids and I don't live in the neighborhood I grew up in, which is the West Side, by the way. But what I do have is a lot of freaking time, and I've been using it well. So come along with me on this grand adventure, because I've been trying all the new around town that you need to know about. This is Nat Tries That.
Welcome back to the Working Lunch on this Monday, kickoff day for those of us here at the Crown. You know, last week I had the pleasure to attend the open house for the new Photo Focus building. That's on Liberty at Sycamore. We talked about it in our Jamie Smith interview just there. Photo Focus is the major photography-based arts nonprofit here in the city. Executive Director Catherine Reichman-Sigworth was a guest on the show last month in the run-up to this big event. The building is stunning. If you're driving around over the Rhine, if you're on Liberty, you can't possibly miss it. Liberty and Sycamore, really high ceilings, which is going to be perfect for the various photography exhibits that'll be displayed on the walls of that building in the coming years. The current exhibition, the inaugural exhibition, is called Big Tent, curated by Photo Focus's artistic director Kevin Moore. Pictures from the last century that are documenting history, creating art with some more conceptual pieces and more. It's a big tent in photography. Really nice event. Photo Focus is an excellent organization that's worth checking out. Photo with an F if you're looking them up on the internet. Something heartwarming to close out on this Monday. Disney is licensing its characters to help create themed MRI scanners for children who need those scanning machines, creating an immersive environment so kids can try to stay calm when they're in those cramped spaces for the scans, lying down for, I don't know, a half hour or more. Now, it's worth noting, this is not a movie that the kids are being showed. There's not a story or anything like that. It is just an ambient experience. You can sit in that little tube and hang out with Ariel while she wishes to be part of this world. One study says that kind of ambient experience resulted in 63% fewer pauses on the scans in child patients. Medical facilities with eligible machines across 87 countries worldwide are eventually set to receive that piece of technology. Nice to see that being available for kids. That's our show. I would like to thank my guest, Cincinnati Business Courier publisher Jamie Smith. Coming up tomorrow, you've seen promos for her on The Crown. Natalie Jones will be my guest. That's going to be a fun time. Follow us on social, The Working Lunch Cincy. Subscribe on YouTube. Smash that notification bell. This is the start of something really exciting. The Crown is live again tomorrow morning, 7 a.m. with Cincinnati's only morning sports show, First Word with James Rapine. All the topics and takes to start your day. I'm Jack Crumley. Thank you for watching. We'll see you tomorrow.